What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I like to talk a little bit about leveling up your consciousness and how you can do that in the present moment whenever you're faced with like the undesirable, fear, anxiety, just dysfunction, just chaos, drama, all this shit that can start to just manifest in our day. We can use those instead of like doing what the world does and doubling down and becoming more and more hysterical and fearful and angry and jealous and like, oh, that's the bad man over here. You know, instead of becoming like that, which is ultimately self-defeating and draining and is not even how you solve problems. It's actually how you perpetuate problems and like make them worse. But everybody's got to learn that on their own. But for those that have decided to level up instead, you can use any of these types of things that have manifested as an opportunity to manifest, whether that's your relationship going to shit, your finances going to shit, any of these things that are going on in your life, they're obvious weeds in the garden. Well, Mike, you can't be just judgmental and condemning these different things. And it's like, okay, if you look at everything that's happening in your life as a reflection of consciousness, looking at all these different things, there's going to be some areas where, hey, I wanted to plant carrots over here, for example. And then, instead of carrots, I got dandelions and just crap that doesn't produce anything I even want. Well, Mike, didn't you know dandelions have very, very healing benefits in the roots and everything? It's like, okay, but if you're trying to grow carrots and a fucking dandelion is in your garden, you failed at growing a carrot. You know, that's all that, achieving goals, doing these different things is all about. Is like, it doesn't matter if, oh yeah, dandelions are great, they're flowers, they can be beautiful, whatever, but if you don't want to grow them and they're growing and choking the life out of what you are trying to do, that's the problem. And then that's not judging and that's not condemning dandelions. That's just like a statement about facts, which is so much of what the world likes to ignore, just and convolute and twist and turn into this upside down clown world shit where they want to argue instead of gaslight you about, well, the merits of dandelions. It's like, well, that's not even what we're talking about. We're talking about if you want to grow carrots and you're having a problem doing that, this is like the next logical step. And so whenever you're confronted with any of these types of scenarios, these dramas, this chaos, this obvious dysfunction, at that point you can choose to level up in the face of that, be able to stand in faith ultimately, and then trust that, God's working this out for my benefit, where I used to become reactive and want to attack it. Instead, I'm going to be still and wait for that inner intuition. Ask, believe, receive, basically. So whenever you're confronted, it's the same pattern every time, where it's like you're confronted with, a triggering event, whether that's maybe your spouse or maybe finances or your health or any of these areas of life that we have a co-creative role in. That's obvious. Then it's obvious if it's functioning correctly or dysfunctionally. Any of those types of things. Oh, your overall body shape and everything. Oh, Mike, don't fat shame people. It's like, as somebody who has been on a weight loss journey for like a year or two, I can tell you there is so much benefit to getting more and more fit as far as your energy levels, the way you just are operating in yourself, where you're not just consciously in your mind just like thinking like, oh, worst case scenarios, being an inner critic, deprecating on yourself, which is so fucking unattractive for one. But the thing of it is, it's like, and I hear people doing that regularly, like it's like a normal thing to like talk shit about yourself. But to me, it's like, if I hear you talking shit about you, I already assume that that's going on within your consciousness, because the way I look at the way people even use their words, so many times, especially if they've been unconsciously just drifting through life and aren't consciously either creating a life for themselves or consciously trying to, level up. It's this, well, I'm so hideous, or, I can't do nothing right, or, this deprecating thing. I don't know why people do it so much. Is it like, maybe it's like the media, and they're just parroting things and they just want to fit in or whatever. I don't know, but as someone who like sees that as like a net negative, when I hear that, it's like, okay, well, that sounds like a limiting belief that you're saying. For one, it has no bearing on, for one, what I'm perceiving. It's like, that's not how I'm seeing you. And ultimately, I don't like being around people that are draining and difficult and like deprecating on themselves because they don't know their own worth and value, which, it's a learning process, but, ultimately, that's on the individual, not needing to change them out of that. That was something I wanted to do for a long time, is like shake people, like, wake the fuck up, stop shitting on yourself. It's like, you're not, that's not helpful. That's not who God created you to be. God says you're a masterpiece, so you should feel like one. And in the face of any of those types of dysfunction, where you could double down and feel more like a fucking loser or whatever, instead of doing that, you can start to level up instead. Where it's like, my old mindset that was cursed, that I just wants to ultimately just talk shit about myself, like push away my actual goals and aspirations, push away love and push away harmonious relationships, that kind of bullshit from the old mindset. That's what you're letting go of completely, because who you are in Christ is ultimately none of those things. And so whenever you're faced with, like, look at everything in life as like a neutral on some. Oh my God, what if I get attacked? What if I'm a victim? And what if? It's okay. Settle down. So whatever's going on in your life, look at it as not just random chaos, but part of a correspondence. Something going on within you is playing a role in the disharmony, either in your marriage, in your relationship, in your finances. Any of these things that are out on the outside, there's a correspondence within at the root of whatever's going on, because everything is a perfect reflection of that. More importantly, your relationship with God in relationship to these different items. For like money, for example, some people will push it away because they believe that, money is evil, and, they're doing that out of faith. Whereas other people look at money as being from God, God's the source of abundance, so, it just depends on how you're discerning the Bible and your own kind of walk with God, ultimately, and how you're proceeding, because either one is kind of a neutral. It's like you can push it away because you're, doing it out of faith, or you can like receive it, give it, and incorporate it in part of your relationship with God. And again, that's part of your faith. So ultimately, everything is boiled down to faith. But unfortunately, with the cursed mindset, whenever you're faced with an opportunity to level up, if you're operating out of fear and hysteria, any new thing, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, is going to be perceived as danger. It's going to be perceived through a lens of fear. I've noticed that a lot with my business. I have like a handyman business. I also have like a music licensing business. A lot of times, you'll get these, like, especially the handyman business, you get these calls with people freaking out because of like some drama going on at their house. And it's like, I need something immediately to happen here because I'm freaking out and scared. And it's like, okay, well, I understand that you're scared and hysterical and freaking out, but, if I become one with that energy, that's not helpful either. And so being able to look at like a neutral thing, like, oh, a customer's calling me with their hysterical problem, well, if I become hysterical too, then I'm not being of service to that person. And so keeping a service mindset in the face of anything that you're trying to level up is ultimately how you start moving in a different direction, start building more positive momentum. For example, in like a business, if you really want to get some like cash flow going, getting out of the scarcity mindset is very, very important, because, this concept of like, for one, looking at money as the ultimate goal is part of an error in thinking. And like, to let me explain a little bit of that claim, part of like money, and as the way I look at it, as being reflective of service to others. So it's like the more that you're able to service others, money is a byproduct. It's like, oh, the more that you diet and exercise, health is a byproduct. It's like the more that you help other people and solve their problems, money's a byproduct. It's an energy. It's and ultimately it's reflective of worthiness levels, guilt and shame. How well have you done at letting go of those things? It's like if you believe that God is the source for your abundance and God is within you in the kingdom of God according to Jesus, the more that you acknowledge the good that's already inherently there, that you are blessed right here, right now, and stop living in the middle, which is part of leveling up. Is we get in this, we drift into this middle zone, and that's part of like the old mindset of like, oh, the only thing like gravy time is the past, and we'll reminisce about the good old days, or this and this is something I've experienced a lot with being in the music business, but it's like this you made it future where everything is just like a utopia for yourself by achieving a certain milestone. Then all of a sudden the floodgates will open, you won't have imposter syndrome, and it's like, oh, all these women will just want to fuck you, and like all these guys will just respect you, and like there'll be like all these people that are just like loving towards you and all this shit. That kind of like you made it future. And I think even religious people fall for that trick on some level where it's like, oh, you guys spend all this time in this middle earth experience, and then if you're a good boy or a good girl by some fucking metric of whatever, then you can have some utopia future where you're just like with all these virgin women and getting your cock sucked and all this kind of shit. Whatever, not to bash any type of, person's beliefs or whatever, but, that I believe is a stumbling block, especially when you look at like the teachings of Jesus, where it's like the kingdom of God is at hand now. It's like, so, if God's in the eternal now in the present moment, so why is there this you made it future? And so like getting out of even those concepts of like past and future is part of a leveling up experience into the unfolding present moment. Not to say that you're stuck in all all of your mind and all these imaginings, which I hear a lot of like spiritual people, law of assumption, not so much as like the law of attraction. It's like the law of attraction, I hear a lot of it, of like trying to manipulate the outer, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I feel like, demonstrating your faith is ultimately what we're doing. But, needing the outer to be a certain thing and disregarding the relationship between you and your creator, this dynamic force of like impressing the subconscious, where it's like the subconscious mind and is already impressed. That's a big part of like moving forward and leveling up your consciousness, is realizing that this isn't something brand new. It's something you've done your entire life. More than likely, like most people, you've been cursing yourself your whole life and not realizing it, by believing in fear, and ultimately because your belief and like the energy of fear become one unconsciously, that has a tendency then to draw that to you. And especially if you disregard the unity of all things and the correspondence that goes on within, versus like, oh, then you start blaming all these secondary forces, blaming others. Not to say that sometimes people aren't just fucking outrageous dickheads and shit, and it's like I've experienced that. I've experienced all sorts of weirdness from people. Not to say it's like it was 100% just me all the time. Maybe it was, but like the more I take ownership about the things that are chronically happening, it's one thing if it's like just some random thing where it's just like, was that me? What the, it's like nothing's random, nothing's, I get it, it's like part of like some bigger divine thing, but it's like, there's a big difference between that, and it takes a while to kind of unpack why something happened, versus like, oh, well, every time I'm around this person, there's a fucking drama shit show. That's another thing, so it's like looking at the areas that are chronically happening. The things that are confronting you in the present moment are always the next logical step. And so it's like with the business, for example, it's like, okay, well, just in my business, I've been painting a house, just started doing that last week. The weather to a really nice turn to like springtime weather, gonna fucking sunburn, but like I was out there power washing. A couple days later, I was out there painting. Well, I'm in a part of town that I wouldn't say it's like sketchy or anything, but there's just like a lot of just police activity and stupid bullshit, and just like kids running around that should be in school. Who knows what's going on out there, but there's just like a lot of like stupid petty bullshit. And I lived in that part of town, and it's like it hasn't changed in, I don't know, 15 years. It's just this stupid petty bullshit of like low grade criminal crap that's just going on. It's like when I lived there, it's like I lived on an apartment on the third floor of this building, and you get the cops banging on the door with like search warrants looking for people, and just like they're peeking their head in there being fucking obnoxious, like oh, what do you got in there? So I'm gonna try to like strong arm you into like telling us what we want you to tell us. And it's like for people that haven't experienced police from like a criminal, like on that side of the fence, it's like a lot of people that are like law-abiding people versus like they don't realize that they think cops are like nice all the time, and that's like not true from my experience. It's like if you are in that same world as like the prey animals that they're seeking, they will fucking come at you with that same fucking energy and just like fucking just get loud and intense and fucking drop F-bombs and just they'll just get in your face and it'll be fucking like try to fucking intimidate you and shit. And like when I was living in there, it's like dealing with these cops, and at the same time, that part of town is like I called the police one time because someone was literally breaking into my car. I just like seen it from my upstairs apartment. I happened to look down because I was going to take my dog out to go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to bring the dog down there when she was like excitable puppy or whatever, and so I didn't want to bring the dog down there if there's going to be a bunch of fucking creeps out in the parking lot and just weirdos and stuff. And so I looked out the window. I happened to see someone just rummaging through my fucking car. And so, I had a shotgun at the time, and my first thought was like, oh, I'm going to bring my shotgun down there. I'm going to fucking intimidate, do one of them. Well, then the second thought was like, well, I've been drinking. I had alcohol in my apartment. I wasn't 21, which was like the legal age to have alcohol and shit. I had already had a bunch of alcohol-related issues and stuff. And so it was like, okay, well, instead of the drama of having to deal with the police and everything, and I was like a total drunk at the time. I was drinking all the time. I don't know if I maybe had a couple in me or whatever. I just didn't want to fuck with the cops. Or I didn't want to, fuck with the gun and the whole thing. So I called the cops, and they ended up telling me that they were busy doing some sort of drill and they couldn't send nobody out. It's like, oh, okay, well that's fucking cool. And it happened, I don't know. It just went from like, oh, okay, so what do you want me to do? You go fucking shoot this guy then? Then would you show up? And that was like the kind of drama that was over there. Like the cops would show up looking for people, but then be very just non-responsive, I guess, for like just petty bullshit, just because of the area. But like, so I was out there painting this house, trying to actually like bring a different energy to that area. I got to pick out the colors of the house, and it was looking really sharp. But like, some neighborhood kids, one was like 15, he's like the oldest one. Another couple, I don't know, 12, 13, so kind of younger, but they just happened to see me out there painting, and they were just like, hey, do you have anything we could do to make some money? I was like, okay. So I had them start picking up sticks and shit out of the yard because it's like, got to get mowed. And the next day I told them, I was like, well, come back tomorrow, and there's this whole backyard that just got all this fucking weeds growing. It needs some kids to just pull this shit out. I don't want to do it. And so I was thinking, oh, light bulb, I have these kids do this, and it'd be good for them. They can actually work with their hands and not steal shit and like cause trouble and everything else. And so next day I go out there, go to the gas station, get a coffee, go back to the house. Well, the cops were there. It was like, what is going on? Come to find out that these kids ended up stealing a UPS package or something off somebody's door, came over to the house to go through it, and then went inside. I don't know if they were trying to steal from me. They said that they were just looking for me, which is possible. I don't know. So long story short, shit show, fucking just drama. But, instead of like, looking at that situation, it's like, drama, another opportunity to kind of level up. Didn't respond out of fear, hysteria. I still told the one kid that, I was like, there was a mower in there. It's like, I'm not sitting here judging you for what you've done. I done a bunch of fucked up shit when I was your age. I'm not saying that that's who you are as a person or whatever. There's still a lawnmower in there. If you want to come back, I see if I can get it running. You can mow the yard. You can have the mower. Somebody just left it, so it's like not this big deal for me to give it away. But it's like, if we can get it going, I need the yard mowed. I'll pay you $25 a week to fucking mow it. Probably take an hour. We'll see how that plays out. I look at everything as being orchestrated anyway. I was like actually thinking about like, hiring some people because I'm starting to get behind. I got a bunch of houses I'm flipping, plus the music business, which I'm really excited about. I got this new cable, and this is like a little tangent or whatever. I got this new cable, really top end cable. So it's like, it should translate into better quality like guitar tracks and shit. So be on the lookout for that. But like yeah, and so I don't even know why I'm talking about this shit. But like I actually think I'm gonna bounce. I got this new phone. I broke my phone the other day again. I got another one though. So hopefully this guy. I don't know if I even want to show it. I'll get fucking hacked or something by somebody. But it's a got a really nice camera on it, which is why I wanted it, because doing before and after pictures, definitely a benefit to have really nice camera. It really sets things up, and for anybody that's like out in the matrix world or whatever, that's like, oh God, I don't know what to do with myself, and I'm tired of working for these people, and like they want to have me medically raped and take all this experimental shit to work there. I shouldn't probably laugh. I find that just so fucking crazy that people are willing to do that just to fucking make $20 an hour or something like that. Insanity to me. But like you can take your skills and offer them to others, and really like the more that you understand metaphysically how like God provides, literally that's a true statement, to get out of the middle of like, wait, is God going to provide? It's like God is always providing. It's whether or not you're recognizing it in the present moment, and as you are recognizing it in the present moment, it's more and more to a point where it's just like obvious. It's like, where it used to be like scarcity of like, I got to work 24/7. I got to work 7 days a week. And I did work like 6 days a week. Basically, biblically, it says, 6 days that you toil for your bread. And so I kind of started from that and did that. And, I believe there's definitely something to that, but that's moving from the old cursed mindset where you were a slave to fear. Everything that the Bible's talking about, as far as I'm concerned, is an evolution of consciousness that you will fucking experience. So it's like, and are experiencing. It's like you can't get away from this. It's like, this is what is going on. And so it's like, when people are in the slave mindset, it's like, yeah, you're going to work 6 days a week if you want to fucking be able to take care of your family. And if you're a man, it's like that's part of your job as a man, is to provide for your family and keep them safe and provide for them. And if you're not doing that, there's a lot of like shit talk that companies like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're not doing that, then you're fucking being like a bitch. So it's like, it's really important to look at your life, everything that's going on, and really try to level it up. And so. And as you're doing that, then you naturally start feeling better about yourself. You start feeling better about life. You start getting more excited about just like getting up out of bed in the morning. It's like, it's like, what's new today? It's like, who knows? And it's unfolding perfectly. But that's a big part of it, is just realizing it is perfect. And it's like, well, Mike, there's no fucking way it's perfect. I got this dysfunctional relationship. I got this. And it's like, yeah, okay. Check your mindset. It's like, especially maybe if it's like relationship with a woman, a lot of times women mirror the inner talking and shit going on within you. So it's like, if you don't have confidence, if you aren't respecting yourself, that your partner is going to mirror that shit back to you in an almost a supernatural way, where it's just like, you can be thinking in a certain way and they'll fucking say it back to you. And it's like, excuse me, what did you just say? But which is like also empowering, because then it's like, you don't have to worry about changing the other person. You start changing yourself and what you tolerate within yourself. And there's a Bible verse like that corresponds to that, where it's like, let me see if I can pull it up. And it has to do, I think Paul said it in the New Testament, where it's like, a man that loves himself, or loves his wife, loves himself. Something like that. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. And this is Ephesians 5:28. And this is what I believe is a hint on like the mystery of marriage, mystery of consciousness, part of the mystery of oneness, even though we're all demonstrating uniqueness. A lot of us are, some people aren't, some people are like hive-minded NPCs that just like demonstrate whatever fucking some retard on a fucking TV screen says. But like, getting more into that, the relationship between like man, woman, marriage, that's a big mystery. But, also, I think there's like a lot that can be unpacked and learned as you start to incorporate a lot of this metaphysical understanding by living in the end that you are blessed now. It's like you wouldn't be tolerating a lot of this dysfunctional bullshit if you were actually in the end. A lot of that dysfunctional bullshit is a big red flag that you've drifted into your old cursed mindset and are living in the middle versus living in the end. So it's like, imagine how everything that's standing out as a weed in your life, or just dysfunctional, disharmonious, or whatever, start to think about, what you actually would prefer instead. A lot of it then can start to be translated more into a state of mind, a state of being that you can put on in the present moment. And as you put it on in the present moment, as you impress those that new state into the subconscious, well, maybe there's some resistance that is like, oh no, you're not worthy of nice things, or oh no, you deserve to be treated like shit because you are a piece of shit. Whatever that bullshit is, that's already programmed in the subconscious. It's like a woman, the relationship dynamics. It's like, yeah, you can command a little bit, but you also have to persuade and like detail out as you're like impressing the subconscious mind. It's like, yeah, there's some things that are just boom, no resistance, and it's impressed, but there's other parts that are part of like the old mindset that needs persuaded to believe that, for one, that you're our masterpiece, or you're the fucking shit, or whatever, to align with what God already said about you. There's what God says about you, what God feels about you, which is love, but you just don't believe that because there's already programming in the subconscious that's at total enmity with that, total opposite. And so you have to convince the subconscious by repetition through standing in faith, planting those seeds. And eventually, once you actually believe that you are a masterpiece, for example, where you believe that, God already said it, you believe what God said, those two become one. Well, as you believe that, then it'll be externalized into the screen of space, and you'll be confronted with that. A lot of times multiplied and given back to you. It's like the same metaphysical principle of what you give to another, you receive, pressed down and multiplied. And if you're giving curses to others, that gets pressed down, multiplied, and comes back to you. It's just the same as blessed, pushed down, multiplied, comes back to you. Think of it like timesing it by 10. It's like if you give somebody $10, for example. This isn't a plug. Oh, Mike's begging for money again. But it's like, if you give somebody $10, anybody, you don't have to give it to me, but it's like $10. If in your consciousness you have gratitude, for one, that $10 is going to be pressed down, multiplied, and come back to you. $10 will come back 100. As you start to really believe that, you see it in a business so fucking. You'll see it for a fact. It's like you spend $10, you get $100 in receivables. Then it cycles back. The more that you're a cheerful giver, as you realize that you're all connected, and you're doing this intentionally and deliberately and consciously, that's the game changer. If you're doing it out of fear, if you're doing it for if you don't even believe it, if there's doubt and everything else, it's probably not going to work, because you'll get that doubt and all that drama. That will also be in the mix. It will come back to you. So the more that you're able to plant those seeds into the soil of the subconscious, knowing that it's going to get a tenfold increase, because you're just trusting in God and trusting that this is how love works and this is how creation is. That's a big difference versus giving out of the cursed mind that believes that every time if I give $10, I just lost it. It's gone. I sacrificed it. It's never coming back. It's like there's it's that scarcity beliefs. It's the bullshit. You have to do it. You have to do it to a point where it's not just blind faith. There's an element to that where it's just like, well, I know if I practice, I'll get good. And if you're like thinking in terms of like playing music, for example, like on the guitar, it's like, well, I know that if I put like an hour to practicing every day, eventually I'll see those gains and I'll be able to actually play in front of people and they'll enjoy it. And it won't just be like a shit show. I won't be nervous. I won't choke. I won't whatever. I'll just be able to demonstrate it. And it's like, yeah, there's an element of blind faith of like, I'm just going to do it. But then as you're doing it and you start seeing the gains, then it's like, it's not blind faith anymore. It's just like, yeah, this is how you do it, And so it's the same thing with like a business, running things like that. It's like the more that you give, you do a good quality job. What I equate things in my handyman business is quality and love being almost interchangeable. Like the amount of attention, the time, attention, the intent. If that's I want to make an awesome thing for this person. I want to surpass what their vision is, what their daydream is. Oh, I want this room painted a specific way. It's like, okay, not only do I want to do that, but I want to do it better than you can even imagine. And those kinds of things, it all pays off. It all levels up your consciousness, and as you do level up the consciousness by dropping like the limiting beliefs, the bullshit that's just causing you to spin out and suffer and just stay stuck and stagnant, those are the things that you're letting go of ultimately. And as you do, everything starts to become an opportunity to level up. Oh, you got $100. I'm going to give 10 away, knowing it's going to bring another $100, and I'm just going to stand out in faith. I'm going to take this action and do it. Wow, Mike, no, when you give money, you lose it. The world is scarce and competition's real, and that's all programming. That's all beliefs and all assumptions. It's all shit I've already let go of. So you compare that to me, but that doesn't mean you're going to change my mind, because I've already changed my mind. I used to believe that shit. I don't anymore, through personal experience and knowledge. And knowledge to me is just demonstrative. It's like what you can demonstrate. It's like I don't need to have a boss, because I've already demonstrated what it's like to have a business. It's like I already understand it through doing it. So like to me, it's like you're not going to convince me, because I've already rejected that shit. It's like and the biggest part I get into is just like getting stuck in the middle of like waiting, doing this. It's like, no, things are always unfolding perfectly. Get out of this idea of waiting. You're already blessed right now. In this breath, you're blessed. Feel it, demonstrate it, know it, level up. Anything that's causing you to feel like you're not blessed, that you're cursed, again, that's an opportunity to flex your fucking faith. I seen that with somebody the other day where they were talking about like, oh, every time I put on abundance, I get struck with all these bills. And it's like part of abundance is flexing spending the fucking money. It's like, spend it on good shit. Look at it as like, I'm supporting this business with this transaction, versus, oh, I'm supporting this sweatshop overseas that is just like enslaving people. And it's like, well, Mike, I can't buy quality things because I don't have the money. It's like, again, this is backwards thinking. It's like, you start buying quality things, then you'll have the money to buy them. It's like, the more that you are in scarcity, the more scarcity you're going to demonstrate. It's like, you have to let that shit go now. It's like don't have this stumbling block that the world does of like, well, once I get money, then I can be charitable, or once I get money, then I can have quality things or quality food or whatever. It's like, no, start what you have now. That's how you do it every single time. You start with what you have and you grow it. You start making better decisions. Like if you have $100, give 10 away, expect $100 more, but then put the shit to work for you. And it's like, well, then this bit's gonna, and it's like, the better you are with the small things, as it grows, you'll be able to scale it. But if you can't, if you've gotten hardly shit now, more things is not going to make you a fucking better person or whatever. It's just going to just spin you out and make you more unconscious, because you can't even handle the shit you have now. More shit to do is just going to make you more fucking unconscious and less efficient at doing anything. But put it to your test for yourself, but I think I'm a balance. I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all social networking things. I get this cell phone, it's like peak time, springtime for a handyman business is, in this climate, which like it has winter, spring, summer, and fall, all different. Springtime, people are fucking getting over the winter bullshit, and it's like, oh, like my heating bill's gone down, so I want to get my house painted. So it gets busy as shit, and it's like, not a good time not to have a fucking working phone. So I had to overnight it. I gotta get that going and try to figure out, the estimates I gotta do. I gotta, some lady wants me to renovate her bathroom. I already renovated her one bathroom, but it's in the next town over. I got a bunch of stuff going on, so I gotta get on that. So I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. Appreciate you, your spiritual support and your physical support. Donation link in the description. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate the messages you sent along with those. They're very heartfelt. I appreciate it. I feel it. I will hopefully just do nothing but, multiply that and give it back to you as well. So, thank you for the people that do that. Not shaming people that don't do it, but for the ones that do flex their abundance with me, I appreciate it. Thank you. And until the next now, God bless.